One early morning in January 1937, Adolf Hitler woke up and was stunned by what he saw. The entire world has become communist. Plan to build a great Germany would have to be shelved, and preparations for the great defense would have to begin immediately. It is obvious that Germany is the next and last goal of the communists. Adolf promised himself that above all else, the two main cities of the Reds, Leningrad and New York, should be burned to the ground. The best military minds in Germany began to develop a plan to defend the state. Manstein came up with the boldest one. A panzer corps would be sent to Denmark to defend the northern flank. At the same time, Federal von Bock's First Army would quickly break through the communist positions in the Benelux states. These countries are not expected to put up much resistance, so First Army could quickly break through the northern border of France and enter Paris. On February 11th, the Communist War declared war on German Reich. Manstein's Third Army immediately crossed the Danish border and began to advance deep into the country. Heavy weather and Danish resistance slowed down the advance of Manstein troops. In early March, German tanks entered Aalborg and began landing operation in Sjælland Island. Danish cavalry guard tried to repel our invasion, but with the support of Luftwaffe, Manstein troops secured the landing area and on March 14th entered Copenhagen. Denmark had longer than our command expected, but 1st Infantry Army in Benelux achieving more success right now. February 19th, Netherlands Army capitulates as Federal von Bock infantry enters Rotterdam. Communist troops arriving at the front completely unprepared and met up against German infantry, ready to eliminate everything on their way. On February 26, Belgian government fled the country, leaving up communist expeditionary forces encircled. After securing the Belgium, German infantry sticking to the plan, entered France. British Expeditionary Corps were pressed back to Dunkirk, where they were encircled and destroyed. France rapidly redirected forces to protect the Paris, but 86th Infantry Division found a gap between French defenses. In March, 86th Division unexpectedly entered the French capital from the west and caught local garrison off guard. French government declared the capital as an open city and retreated. France capitulates, but communist troops from other countries received the order to continue the fight against Germany. Most of their logistics ways were intercepted by our army. Günther von Kluge, the commander of Western Army Group, tried to clear out the trapped units. However, communist troops were redirected to Spanish and Italian border and began to re-establish control over southern France. United Communist armies were advancing from western France and Switzerland, threatening to encircle German infantry divisions at the south. Because of this, Kluge got permission to retreat back to Belgium. By May 1937, the communists gathered countless forces in two directions. In the west at France, communists began an offensive trying to retake the Benelux, for now with no success. In the east, Polish Czechoslovakian armies were attacking in the Berlin direction. Ignoring the losses, Soviet generals were sending their troops into waves against prepared German positions. Meanwhile, at the south, there were only Austrian under-equipped army. German command decided that this is a good chance to reunite German people and started an offensive there. Third Army liberated the Bavaria region and encircled two communist divisions south to Augsburg. That left Austrian west flank completely undefended, and exploiting these, 3rd Panzer Division entered Vienna, capitulating Austria. Further advance eastward would put our attacking units into risk of encirclement from Czechia. So, German troops entrenched south to Linz along the Alps. That marked the end of German advances. The communists had amassed impressive forces in Belgium and launched a large-scale offensive towards Brussels. The battle soon turned positional, just like in the Great War 20 years earlier. For 2 months, German troops struggled to hold their positions, but the communists soon broke out in the Ardennes forest and Antwerp, threatening to encircle 8 divisions in Brussels. Given the dire situation, the German command decides to retreat across the Rhine to more favorable defensive positions. By November 1937, the situation for Germany remained desperate. Communist forces were stepping up the pressure on all fronts. German factories could barely keep up with the demand of ammunition to deal with the Red Hordes. The enemy also established complete air superiority, which helped them to break through into the industrial zone along the Rhine. Germany lacked the fuel needed to supply the tanks and aircraft, so essential for a counterattack. The German command decided to radically revise its doctrine. In general, the current tank models had not performed well, and their further development was costly and uncertain. Instead, it was proposed to revive Prussian traditions and achieve a new level of coordination between the infantry and artillery. The new German doctrine proved highly successful on the Rhine. Albert Kesselring, with a rapid infantry breakthrough, managed to encircle a communist force of 350,000 soldiers. The German army performed a miracle on the Rhine, stabilizing the front line and forcing the communists to hold their offensive on the other fronts. In late August 1938, the Germans caught off communists off guard once again. East of Coburg, Konev's army was encircled and destroyed. The Germans captured 1,000 tons of valuable equipment suitable for launching a new offensive in Bavaria. Before they had time to recover from a heavy loss, the Reds suffered another one. German assault troops crossed the west bank of the Rhine. From this bridgehead, Fedor von Bock's assault infantry broke to the Mainz, encircling 30 communist divisions. The summer of 1939, while Führer and the German High Command were distracted with operations in the west and south, Cuban raiders carried a surprise landing in Denmark and rapidly established control over German cities in the north. The German High Command, blinded by its victories in the south, did not comprehend the danger of the situation until the end of July. It was imperative to launch a counteroffensive immediately before the main communist forces arrived and captured Berlin. For this purpose, the 1st Assault Army under the command of Fedor von Bock was deployed. Elite units was reinforced with heavy howitzers, a new weapon developed by Krupp. In short time, the Assault Army crushed the raiders, regained control of the cities in northern Germany, and broke through into Denmark. There, the Germans were met by communist reinforcements that rushed to the area, but they had no time to prepare defensive positions and were quickly overwhelmed. Prussian Rangers continued their advance southeastward. In September 1941, more than 500,000 communists were defeated near Budapest. Another force of 200,000 surrendered in Carpathian Mountains, and by December, the Germans had secured the oil fields in the Budapest area. By early 1942, the territory of the German Reich stretched from the North Sea all the way to the Black Sea, offering numerous opportunities for offensive operations. Before launching the decisive thrust on Moscow and Leningrad, Hitler ordered to secure German positions in west and south. Simultaneously with the operations at the west, the German forces launched a large-scale operation in the east, aimed at crushing Poland. German Rangers completely routed the Polish army near Lublin. The communists lost a 400,000-strong force in a matter of days. This opened the way to Lviv, where German troops entered with almost no resistance. Poland capitulates in just 1 week. The logistics of all communist army groups in Eastern Europe were disrupted. German troops immediately moved into the gap that had opened up from the south, and soon our troops linked up in Vilnius. The Red Army found itself surrounded in the largest encirclement in the history. The ring began to close rapidly. By early December, 1.5 million communist troops had surrendered in the town of Sielce. By the year 1945, the German generals achieved what Napoleon could not. Only one enemy remained in Europe, the Soviet Union. The preparations are done. On June 22, 1945, the largest ground operation in history began. A force over 3 million troops launched an offensive across the entire front with the aim of reaching the Urals before the onset of winter. On the morning of July 9th, the capital of the Ukrainian SSR, Kyiv, was captured. The following day, the Latvian SSR surrendered. The German infantry advanced relentlessly and rapidly without slowing down. In just 1 month, the Soviet Union had lost most of their army. there was no one left to fill the gaps in vast front lines. On August 7th, German Jaegers reached the outskirts of Moscow. The decisive battle for the capital of the USSR began. Taking advantage of their overwhelming numerical superiority, German troops broke to north and south of the capital. Facing the threat of encirclement, the remains of garrison retreated from the city, evacuating Lenin corps away. Moscow was completely secured on the morning of August 17th. Amid the 10-day Battle of Moscow, Leningrad also fell. It was from here that the World Revolution began, one that nearly infected the entire planet with the Red Plague. Hitler put Plan S into the action, which, amongst other things, called the wiping Kiev, Leningrad and Moscow off the face of the earth. The local population was to be partially Germanized and gradually exterminated. In early December, the battle for the Urals, Hitler's final objective, began. At this stage, German soldiers faced greater resistance from the weather and the lack of infrastructure than from the Soviet troops themselves. On December 17th, Adolf Hitler announced the official end of Operation Barbarossa. Its objectives had been successfully achieved, and German troops were able to return to their families to celebrate Christmas. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the war significantly de-escalated due to the absence of an active frontline. Adolf can't wait to close his final chapter, to raise New York to the ground, the last bastion of the Reds' resistance. To achieve this goal, ambitious projects have been rapidly underway to create a powerful bomb capable of destroying an entire city, as well as an intercontinental bomber to deliver such a bomb across the Atlantic Ocean. After the launch of Plan Z, the Kriegsmarine significantly increased its combat power and defeated the American fleet. This cleared the way for the Rangers, who established control over strategic bases in Iceland and Greenland. A ground landing on the American mainland could have dragged on for several years and threatened the German army with heavy losses. German Rangers secured the island of Newfoundland. From there, the latest bombers could already reach New York. In early April 1947, Adolf Hitler ordered preparations for a large-scale bombing raid on New York. On the evening of April 23rd, more than 200 bombers took up towards the Führer's final target. Nevertheless, overnight on April 24th, the entire German nation was shocked by the news. The Führer was dead. 10 years of constant struggle had seriously affected the leader's health. He did not live to see the downfall of the American nation. 2 hours after the Führer's death, German bombers reached New York, dropping thousands of incendiary and 2 atomic bombs on the city. Within a kilometer of the epicenter of the atomic bomb blast, people and buildings were instantly vaporized. The remodeled Statue of Labor ironically split in 2. Half an hour after the bombings, radioactive rain began to fall over the city's ruins. The bombing of New York complicated the already tough situation in the communist states of America. Realizing that the German Air Force could do the same to any communist city, they surrendered to the mercy of Heinrich Himmler, the new Führer of the German Reich, who would take charge of effectively managing the new territory of the German nation. The regular communist forces have been disbanded. Some of them have gone underground, while the rest have accepted the rule of the German nation. The war has entered the new era of monopolarity under the 1,000 years German Reich.